Is nostalgia all Halo has left? Because it certainly has been something Halo Studios has been relying on quite heavily to get people to play these recent Halo Infinite updates. But honestly, can you blame them?
Logical.
Because from Halo Studios' standpoint, this is probably the most effective way to get people to play Halo right now. And Halo Infinite's latest update certainly leans into that nostalgia very heavily, but it's actually kind of fun, though it still makes me yearn for the past. Because you can get really close to recreating these classic modes like Invasion and the 4v4 arena, but it just doesn't feel the same. But it doesn't mean you won't have fun with Halo Infinite's recent update.
He's on the right!
Oh, I spotted him!
I was just spinning.
I genuinely enjoyed my time playing this new update for Halo Infinite, but it's really just because it's the only way I can experience my favorite mode ever in Halo. And yes, I know Invasion is in the MCC, but there's an issue with that, and we'll talk about that in this video.
I love you, and I miss you.
So if at any point you guys find yourself enjoying the video, any hypes, likes, shares, or subscribes are always much appreciated. Make sure you stay tuned throughout the whole video to understand all the details. Oftentimes I need a little hit of energy when gaming, but something that's a little less intense than say an energy drink or some coffee, and that's where 4XP Gaming Drink Mix comes in. Enriched with a vitamin blend of A, E, B6, B9, and of course B12, as well as a low caffeine option that's around 23 milligrams per serving. No artificial sweeteners, which can have a nasty off-putting aftertaste. Only 10 grams of sugar per serving. That's far less than a typical energy drink. And the fun thing for all my Halo fans out there, that 4XP actually has a really strong history with the Halo experience in the community. It's one of the first things they mentioned on their website, saying our journey began with late night sessions of Halo 3. And a fun little Easter egg on their website that all their flavors are voiced by Jeff Sticer, the voice guy from Halo. Just listen to this.
Grave Walker, legendary, ultra nightmare.
I mean, that's incredible. If you guys want to help support the channel and 4XP, I got my code and link in the pinned comment and description of this video to help save you a little cash as well. So hopefully 4XP can help let your gamer out.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
I know a lot of people out there have been out of the loop for Halo for quite some time. I still get comments to this day of people asking, is now the time to jump in to play Halo? Well, that ultimately is up to you, and it is a free-to-play game, so it doesn't really cost you much to jump in to play, but let's get you up to date with anyone who's out of the loop to see what's the new stuff to play and why it actually would be worth playing Halo Infinite now. The two main experiences you can have now with this recent update is the return of Invasion. It's one of the most classic, iconic modes ever to grace the Halo franchise, and it's brought back in Halo Infinite in its own way, which we'll definitely touch on a little bit more detail. And there's also a legacy ranked experience, which if you've been yearning for that classic Halo experience, but with modern graphics and snappy gameplay, well, that's also there for you to offer. But again, like I said, it doesn't quite capture the same vibe. And a major contention that the community has always had with Halo Infinite is the shop. And while the shop is going to shop, it's going to continue to shop until the shop can't shop no more. But there were some significant changes that happened with this update that is actually a step in the right direction, but there's also a significant step in the wrong direction as well that we need to cover.
Oh no!
And of course, with this operation, you get a whole new pass, which has some awesome customization, some Spartan points, and honestly, it's pretty sweet looking. I mean, who doesn't want to look like a knight going into battle?
Now stand aside, worthy adversary.
'Tis but a scratch.
I mean, when you think about it, what's up with my recent sci-fi games with Helldivers adding in dragons and now Halo adding in knight armor? It's like they're making me want to play Elder Scrolls. Let's take a close look at the biggest attraction with this recent update, the addition to Halo Infinite being Invasion. Now, first I want to cover over the similarities and the differences, and I'd be one to judge because just to let you know, I was top 20 on PC for Invasion back in 2019. I mean, out of probably like 21 people playing the mode. So let's start off with the similarities between Reach's version and Halo Infinite. Similarities obviously being attack and defense. There's obviously that aspect of the game mode happening there. There are multiple stages, the same stages you expect to be in Reach, put into Halo Infinite as well, being the 2-zone territory for phase 1, the bomb assault for phase 2. And of course the core, I put that in quotations or an asterisk next to it because they replaced the core with the flag, which is all right. It makes sense. I understand they're trying to do with what they have right now within Halo Infinite's Forge, but it definitely led to some confusion for me because when you're carrying a flag in Halo Infinite, you would expect it to have flag-like mechanics, but in Invasion, it doesn't because it's trying to replicate the core. I had this experience happen where I was carrying the flag juggling as you normally do with a flag, and then a vehicle rolled up right next to me, honking its horn saying, "Hey, jump on in." I was like, great idea, let's go cap this flag. And I could not get in. It would not let me in the vehicle because it's trying to replicate the core, which you could not use vehicles for, which again makes sense when you're trying to have that similarity between the Reach and Halo Infinite version. But when you're carrying a flag with no visual indication that you can't have all the flag mechanics available for you, it can be rather confusing. I mean, you can grapple shot the flag to you to carry it. You couldn't really do that with the core, but I guess you had to pick and choose which Halo Infinite mechanics with the flag you wanted to keep and which ones you wanted to stay true to it being a core. And of course, the return of asymmetrical classes, which is a core aspect of what the experience is while playing Invasion. While it's not a one-to-one recreation, we'll dive into those differences very soon here, but it's still pretty fun to play with these individual classes and loadouts, and they can be pretty wild towards the end of the game. Now for the similarities of Halo Infinite's Invasion, one of my favorite aspects I have to point out is the usage of the Falcon on these maps. I love the Falcon. It's my favorite vehicle ever in the game. It's so versatile, it's so powerful, and it kicks so much butt. It's like a floating warthog. I mean, how's that not amazing? And it does amazing on a lot of these new maps and also some of these older remakes as well. Like, yeah, they have the Falcon in BTB, but it doesn't hit the same. And of course, if you're leaning into nostalgia, you gotta bring some of those classic nostalgic maps back, as in Breakpoint and Boneyard make a return back in this mode, which fantastic to see that. I'm super happy that those two maps where I view as like most iconic experiences when it comes to Invasion are in the game. But there's sadly one that's missing that I've been seeing a lot of people request, and that is Spire. And I'm sure a lot of people look towards Spire being like the quintessential iconic experience of what Invasion can be. I mean, we've never had a Halo map like Spire with that gigantic height elevation difference, the utilization of vehicles like the Falcon being so necessary for success. Just so many insane plays can be done on that map, and sadly it's not in the game, but there is a Spire-like map with Crash Out where they recreated the tower from Halo Infinite's campaign that you lift all the way up to the top from. So there's still that same mechanic of going through the lift to get to the area we need to get the flag. But the problem is with the way the classes work, there's a lot of very patient players sitting in corners on top of that. And I also understand not having Spire in the game because it wouldn't really match thematically with Halo Infinite being UNSC versus the Banished, and having Covenant-like architecture for a mode doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, especially if you're having to manipulate the classes as it being infected Spartans rather than elites. But I think it might be one of those situations where you kind of want to just lean into more of the nostalgia and fun and give people what they're really asking for, rather than being like, well, it doesn't really fit the lore. I'm like, guys, we're talking about Forge maps in Halo Infinite's live service right now. I don't think we're too concerned about accuracies between the campaign experience and multiplayer. And talking about differences, let's go into that, how Halo Infinite's version differs from Reach. And in some ways, it's pretty good. In other ways, makes me wish I was just playing regular Invasion. A noticeable difference is that this is 8v8 Invasion, where traditionally Invasion was 6v6. I will say that Invasion in Infinite has definitely felt far more chaotic, or having to fight through more people because there are just more players on the map. It's more cluttered than I was expecting it to play as, but it doesn't really change the gameplay experience a whole lot. You're still kind of doing the same type of tactics you would do in Reach, but this time in Halo Infinite, you just have to take out a few extra players. And with it being Spartans versus infected Spartans, meaning there are no elites. And I know a lot of people have been crying for playable elites in Halo Infinite, and I'm sure a lot of people just will not play Invasion in Infinite because it's not elites, which I guess I understand it, but you know, it just doesn't really seem to capture the same type of thematics as the original, with it being Spartans instead of elites. Because with it being those elites, that it kind of brings that campaign element, because before then, Like, yeah, you would play against elites in like multiplayer for Halo 2 and Halo 3, but they were just kind of like, I want to play as a dinosaur, right? Where the integration in Halo Reach actually makes sense to have elites as they're taller, they have different abilities, different weapon sets as well. It really just kind of give you like that campaign experience, but in the multiplayer setting, which is one of the things I love so much about Original Invasion. But I would say don't let the whole elites not being in this version stop you from playing this version of Invasion, because it really is the only one that we have, but I'll get into that a little bit later. Also, the classes for Halo Infinite's version of Invasion are just not very well balanced, especially in the late game, because the last rounds is pretty much all just sword camo users everywhere, and you're really just gonna be dying from nowhere because your footsteps are extra quiet, you're off the radar, you're pretty tough to see also in Halo Infinite's version of camo. So then like you're just gonna be walking around, you slice, you're dead. And it's kind of just like you're feeling like you're being cheated on a little bit, so that like the individual experience of being killed by those classes, not very fun. But I will say that if you are using that class, it can be very fun though, because while the balance is not really there for the class differences, but I will say that they are very impactful, and you feel like every time you utilize your abilities, you're making a difference in the battlefield. And while we had some classic maps return, we actually have some new maps brought into this, which I absolutely love that they made new maps in Halo Infinite Forge for Invasion. But not only did they make new maps, which that's all they needed to do really for me, but they actually brought in an additional mode of payload brought into those original maps. And I have to say that payload fits right in with Invasion perfectly, because it still has that same aspect of trying to push through enemy lines to reach to an objective. I actually wish that payload was a much more prominent mode in Halo Infinite. Every time I've played Launch Site, I'm like, man, this map actually would be pretty fun if it had payload rather than being regular Team Slayer, because other than that, Launch Site is a kind of an abysmal map to play. But if you're playing payload, that would change everything. And I'm surprised nothing similar to payload has come into Halo Infinite. Even in Halo 5, we had Roaming King, which at the time was a super popular mode. Can we just give a shout out to the Forgers here in the Halo community? You guys have been doing amazing work out there carrying Halo Infinite, and did not fall short with Halo Infinite's version of Invasion.
You guys are the best.
So we've had time to play Halo Infinite's version. Of course, we all remember Reach's version, but ultimately, when these two get created, people are gonna go, oh, this is better than the other one. So which one is better, Halo Reach or Halo Infinite's? Well, I would say Halo Infinite's for one condition, because I would say that the classic version from Reach is a better version of Invasion that we've had in Halo. But the thing is that the Halo Infinite version of Invasion is kind of the only version we have available to play, because sadly the MCC version of Invasion is ranked and you literally just cannot find a match out there. Now I was like, okay, well, let's put it in the social, that'd be fun. But then I started to think about it. I don't know if Reach version of Invasion in MCC would get that true support that it actually needs to be functional and playable in MCC, because Halo Reach's version, like I mentioned earlier, of Invasion is 6v6, and it actually wouldn't fit in the current setup of the match composer for the MCC. So of course you're gonna go, okay, we'll just make UI elements. It couldn't be that difficult. And while for a normal supported game, yeah, that would make sense. But really, it would have to be in its own separate category, its own separate little playlist within the match composer. And so it'd be buried within all the other modes of 4v4 and 8v8 that most people are going to be searching for. And so if you take it out of ranked and then bury it within the UI of the MCC, then people are still not going to find ways to play it anyways. Personally, I think the best option would be to put Invasion in the BTB 8v8 playlist, but maybe put like a little asterisk saying it's 6v6, because Invasion and BTB have a similar gameplay experience. But of course, I'm going way into the weeds about this whole thing, but I just miss playing Invasion. And like I stated earlier, that Reach's version of Invasion really did try to focus on class balancing the best they could, while it also being unique to both sides, where Infinite's version just felt like it was much more of an emphasis on wild fun. Playing Halo Infinite's version of Invasion kind of reminded me of playing Modern Warfare from 2009. It's because like it had such insanely overpowered weapons and perks and things like that, where in Modern Warfare 2 back in 2009, you're kind of just constantly BSing each other the whole time. So yeah, you cheese one person, but then you get cheesed back. And so it's just constant, never-ending cycle of revenge. So it kind of sucks being on the receiving end of a lot of the deaths in the mode, but it's also really fun and rewarding when you're on the winning side of things. So ultimately, it kind of ends up being just like a wash of just wild fun. Also, with it being 8v8, it just adds to that chaos even more. I mean, it's not saying that it's impossible as a defending or attacking team to win. I experienced it on both sides. I never really felt like either side had too much of an advantage, but there was a lot of times I was just like, man, that was some BS. The other main experience that launched with this update is Legacy Ranked. It brings back that classic Halo gameplay into Halo Infinite, which on paper sounds amazing, but from my experience of playing it in Halo Infinite, not so much. If you guys don't know about this mode, they essentially took the Delta Arena from Halo 3 Legacy playlist and they just made it ranked, so they took away the motion tracker and changed the spawns up a little bit and had battle rifle starts. Just so like I said earlier, that there is no sprint, there's no clamber, BR starts, there's no secondary weapon, friendly collision is on, motion tracker disabled, and respawn is at 8 seconds. So trying to really recreate that classic Halo experience. And same thing with the maps that are in this mode as well. It's not just Halo 3 maps, it also has some classic Halo 2 maps like Hang 'em High that was recreated for the Delta Arena, now put into this playlist. And of course, the forging is absolutely amazing. Like I said, the forgers have been carrying the game for so long. Like maps like Guardian in particular look amazing in Forge, as well as Narrows. I mean, that just might as well be dev made. But when I was playing this ranked legacy mode, it kind of reminded me a lot of the same issues that Halo 5 did when they brought in Halo 3 and Halo CE style playlists. Is that because the weapons are tuned for Halo Infinite movement and map design, not for this classic style of gameplay? I mean, there's a reason why the battle rifle in Halo 3 used projectile. And before anyone says it in the comments, I do know, yes, Halo's engine uses projectiles no matter what. And they just speed up the projectile speed to make it like hit scan, but they slow it down to make it so you have to lead the shots. Just know when I say projectile, I mean you have to lead your shots. Hit scan, you don't have to lead it, your shots go where you're aiming. I get it, I know that's the engine. I know there's gonna be someone to come side rant over, but basically what I'm trying to say is that trying to bring in these classic maps, but put them in a Halo Infinite like sandbox doesn't tend to really work itself out. A lot of the maps I kind of found itself like kind of hard to move around because there are so many precision hit scan weapons in the sandbox that like you really get trapped in because you can get beamed from any location on the map at any time, where in classic Halo, that wasn't really the case. That's why you saw maps like Standoff and Sandtrap work so well in Halo 3, but if you tried to play that in Halo Infinite, it would honestly just be mental pain. The battle rifle in Halo Infinite is just so much more lethal compared to the classic versions of the same weapon. So much like playing Invasion in Infinite, playing this legacy mode just made me want to go play the Master Chief Collection. And judging by the match times for this mode, I can kind of see people feeling the same, because when I was trying to get my placement matches, I kept matching against the same squad over and over. And then when I tried to break the cycle up a little bit, it was just taking forever to find a match. So I was like, let's just go back to play Invasion. I'm not waiting 5 minutes to play a match. So I only got like a couple games in, like 2 or 3 games in. I mean, what, can you blame me? Would you want to wait that long for a mode that's just going to be gone next month? But I'm glad there's that classic outlet for people who just really like that classic gameplay. I mean, these maps are iconic, right? That gameplay is so smooth and feels great to play, but doing it in Halo Infinite just doesn't really seem to hit the same. And in that point, I just kind of would rather just play the Master Chief Collection. But of course, it's hard to find ranked matches in Halo MCC as well. So I'm like, well, is this the only ranked experience for classic Halo I get to really have? And of course, with every major update for Halo Infinite, there is a big shop update. You get a new battle pass, exchange, refresh, and all that stuff. So let's dive into it, because we got to talk about this, because there were some significant changes in the positive, but some changes towards the negative that I think will drastically hurt the game over time, and some of it just doesn't make sense. So let's start with the Operation Pass. It's pretty standard. You earn Spartan parts, you get an armor set, you get some coatings and stuff like that. It looks great, especially if you buy into it with the 500 credits to make the pass durable, which we'll talk about that in a minute when it comes to the FOMO stuff. That, yeah, that customization looks sweet. Looking like a knight in shining armor in Halo is kind of cool. And I get it, you know, having to lean into that FOMO side of things, because if people aren't paying into Halo Infinite, well, then we're going to have some bigger issues to deal with. But just seeing that it has to be a durable if you buy into it, it just kind of makes you wish that we still had like that experience that was actually praised by Halo early on when it first launched, because Hayabusa is definitely getting the short end of the stick here. And of course, we got to talk about the shop. And like I said, the shop is going to shop. The shop is going to continue to shop. The shop won't stop shopping until the shop can't shop no more. And I'll never stop saying this with every update, but like, please, we got to at least give us the option for this. But I'm so tired of seeing everything tied to bundles when it comes to this. Like, yeah, there's eventually individual items go on sale and stuff like that. That's great, but it gets so past the initial hype of the release of the item that it doesn't really get me too excited to check out or even want to pick up or anything like that. There's been so many times where I've seen individual customizations like weapons and death effects that are like, oh, that would be awesome to have. I would pay 500 credits for that. I'm not about to spend 30 for a bundle of things I'm not going to utilize though. But when I looked at the shop this time around, I was actually shocked that Halo Studios did something actually positive to the players that we definitely need to praise about. And that's having an entire armor set that's in the shop right now available through gameplay, which is shocking that we're finally getting that 3.5 years into the release of the game. That full bundle being the scanner armor set that's available in the exchange. Now it is 86,000 credits, which is a heck of a grind, but Unishack did state that yes, this will be persistent right now. So hopefully before the winter update comes around, it's still in the exchange. But if you're starting from 0 right now and you're wanting to earn, say, the scanner armor set or the Hayabusa helmet before it's gone, which we'll talk about in a minute here, or the Ghost of Reach helmet, it's going to take some significant grind time. Let's work out the math here. The Operation Pass offers 15,000 credits. You also get 1,000 Spartan points for completing the weekly ultimate. Your first game of the day gets you 250 credits, while every game afterwards gets you 100 credits. So hypothetically, let's say if you play 10 games per day of Halo Infinite, that will get you 1,150 credits. Per week, that equals out to, on top of completing the weekly ultimate, of 9,050 credits. Now let's say in a month you play 10 games a day, you complete all the weeklies, and you get the Operation Pass completed. That's 51,200 credits. So if you're the top 0.1% of the player base right now for Halo, playing that much, being that engaged, you still have months of grinding ahead of you. Now you can always buy Spartan points, but come on, who's gonna do that? So the grind is definitely real if you want to try to unlock this customization, say for the Scanner Hayabusa or the Ghost of Reach. And I get it that these are more like ultimate goal type of grind customizations for you to unlock. You're not meant to unlock this within a month or a week of experience. It's supposed to be that carrot at the end of the stick that's going to get you to play for the next 3 months or so, which that I'm totally fine with. Ghost of Reach helmet has been in the exchange since it's been released to the public, and I hope the same thing happens with Scanner, but that is not happening with the Hayabusa helmet, and I genuinely am not happy about that, because Halo Studios said that the Hayabusa helmet will be available for the last time in the exchange until October 7th. That is just pure FOMO. And it's just kind of sad to see that this is where Halo Infinite is going towards with the FOMO when it comes to Operation Passes, and now the Hayabusa helmet, one of the most iconic helmets ever to be released in the Halo franchise. And then they're backtracking on one of the things that actually was championed by the gaming industry as a whole with Halo Infinite, with the battle passes not expiring. With that recent shift from the Frontlines operation to go into FOMO, it's just a little upsetting as a player, and we're not seeing some significant player count boost to get the Hayabusa helmet. That grind being so hard, it can actually be demoralizing and make you not want to play, because if you really want the Hayabusa helmet, but if you don't have 30 to 40,000 Spartan points starting this month of the Operation Warpath, then you're just not going to get that pretty much ever. The only reason why I was able to get the Hayabusa helmet is because I've actually been saving for months to get the Ghost of Reach helmet, but of course Hayabusa came in, clearly that took priority. And this is one of the most iconic helmets ever in the Halo franchise. I mean, people have written songs about this helmet. And the weirdest thing is that this is a crossover with Ninja Gaiden, but the Ninja Gaiden themed helmet is set to leave Halo Infinite weeks before the release of Ninja Gaiden 4 this fall, which is the first Ninja Gaiden game in over 11 years. So you think, oh, there's some cool crossover happening there. It'd be kind of interesting to do some cross promotion, right? But it always kind of feels like Halo Infinite is like the black sheep of Xbox marketing, because the last time we had any kind of significant mention was back in 2021 when the game launched. Of course, now I'm going down a rabbit hole. That's a whole other story. If you guys want to get into that, we can talk about it in another video. But my hope is that the scanner armor set will stay in Halo Infinite as well, similar to the Ghost of Reach helmet, but I mean, only time will tell. Though I still get comments to this day asking, is Halo Infinite worth playing now? And while they'll always respond back with, it's always a good time to play Halo, especially in the last few years. If you haven't played Halo Infinite since launch, if you haven't played since like Season 4, Season 5, things have changed quite a bit. There's a brand new networking system. There's so many more maps, so many more modes and experiences to have within the game. It really does feel like a truly fleshed out Halo experience. It's just kind of a shame that Halo Infinite didn't launch like this back in 2021. Like, do you guys remember that you couldn't even search for Slayer at the launch of Halo Infinite? And they explained that it was like a UI limitation. Halo Infinite really has come a very long way from launch, and it's still a fun game to play. While it might be sitting at mixed on Steam reviews, I would definitely put it at like a recommend. It's fun. If you guys miss playing Halo, jump in, download it, it's free, you'll have fun. Halo Infinite's multiplayer is still widely held as the best multiplayer we've had in years. Definitely the best 343 Industries ever released. But the one thing that was holding Infinite back was the content. But now the content is here and the game functions and plays well. So yeah, jump in and play Halo Infinite, man. Invasion is a ton of fun. Definitely give it a run, especially since it's kind of effectively the only version of Invasion we have right now. And if you yearn for those classic ranked experiences and don't mind waiting a few minutes to get a match, yeah, you can play some ranked experiences that's straight up classic Halo. I just hope with the next update that we lean into something more new to play in Halo rather than having to be so focused on nostalgia-based experiences. And hopefully in October, when we get the announcement of whatever the next games are going to be, that they offer something new to the players and the people who enjoy Halo, rather than having to rely on the past 14 years of nostalgia to get people to play the game. Halo used to be a trend leader and an innovator within the industry, and I just hope we see the same thing in the future with Halo Studios. If you guys enjoyed this video, like, subscribe is always appreciated. Leave a hype if you enjoyed the video. It helps out a ton when it comes to the algorithm and all that stuff. But thank you all for watching. Greatly appreciate it. Catch you on the next one. Peace out.